Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with a disclaimer. What our OP did in this story was not the best way to handle a situation at work, and OP definitely doesn't recommend it. But sometimes you reach a breaking point. Well, things happen. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Drop everything and help you out? Sure, I got you. I want to start this post by saying yes, I know I should have gotten fired for this, and I do not recommend doing this in any service industry job. This happened several years ago while I was working as a waitress at a chain restaurant. There was this insane manager whom I'd had to work with on several occasions. She was young and thought she knew everything, was quite trashy, and was sleeping with one of the higher-ups who was married, whose wife also worked at the same restaurant. But that's a different story. This manager, let's call her Mindy, was always on my butt about everything. I was one of the few shift lead servers who knew what they were doing, knew how to make the restaurant money, and had many customers write great reviews and say wonderful things about me. I knew how to do my job, and I knew how to do it well. Mindy always singled me out for things when things weren't even my fault. I would always just take it because it wasn't worth my energy fighting about it. She was the only person in the whole restaurant that I didn't get along with. I had a great rapport with the bartenders, servers, cooks, back-of-house staff, and other managers. One day I came in to start my shift but was quickly pulled into the manager's office by a different manager. He wanted to bring it to my attention that Mindy had stated on my past shift that I was on my phone and not working hard. This was not true. I never carried my phone on me because it was a distraction. I didn't have room in my apron, my jeans didn't have pockets, and honestly, I didn't want to have it on me. I mentioned this to the manager and he gave me the benefit of the doubt, but said he was going to keep an eye on me as cell phone use has been becoming a major problem with several of the servers and bartenders in the past few months. One shift a few days after that was busy. I had a full section and was sat with a party of 12 who all ordered beverages from the bar with water. I grab a tray, fill up the water, and hand the glassware to the service bar in the kitchen area. Once all the drinks were on the tray, I slowly started to lift to get it situated as it was heavy. Mindy decided this was the best time to yell at me and tell me she needed me to run the food that was up at the expo line, where she was standing and expediting the food. I took a second to look over at two other servers who were leaning against the wall much closer to her on their phones. I said, "I'm a little busy. Can someone else help?" She snapped back at me and said, "I told you to do it, so you need to do it now." At that moment, I honestly didn't even care anymore, so I looked her dead in the eyes, smiled, and said, "Okay," and literally dropped the tray of drinks I was holding on the ground, walked over the broken glass, crushing the cups under my feet, grabbed the plates of food, and asked her where they were going while keeping a smile on my face. The look of horror on her face, the phone-dwelling servers' faces, and the cooks' faces were quite priceless. Once I delivered the food, I went to my party of 12 and apologized to them and told them I'd dropped their tray of drinks and I'd be right back with a new one. Still with that smile on my face. Once my shift was over, Mindy pulled me into the office and explained what I did was not okay and she was going to write me up for it, so I had to sign a document stating I understood why I was being written up, and I refused to sign it before speaking with other management. There was much more discussed in this conversation, but I can narrow it all down. She said I would be fired if I didn't sign the write-up document at that exact moment. I still refused and said I would speak to the GM about it tomorrow morning on my next shift. The next morning, I explained to the GM what had happened and stated that I was working while others were on their phones, but Mindy singled me out. I also asked him to check the cameras to see the incident take place, and might I say, it was so satisfying to physically see myself drop everything. After lots of discussion, the GM said there's no problem here, ripped up the write-up, and told me to continue being the hard worker I am, and I never had to work with Mindy again. The end. Something tells me your GM wanted her gone and your compliance gave them just the right amount of leverage to oust her. And our second story. You should find another job. Well, on this fateful day, I was working the closing shift. We were horribly understaffed, so I was working alone. We still have a few orders that haven't been picked up yet for 8 to 10, and it was already 7 p.m. when 3 customers came in at the same time. We have a first-come, first-served basis, so whoever calls our department for pickup first gets their order first. It usually takes 3 to 10 minutes to load each customer, unless the system goes down and we have to manually scan each and every item, which takes forever. I also tell customers when there are people ahead of them so they know when they're going to expect a few minutes of wait. So I start loading these 3 customers in order. Lady 1 was thankful for me loading her groceries into her trunk without having to get out. No problems at all. Mind you, it only took me 4 minutes to load her. Now I start loading lady number 2's groceries. I got to her car and she comes out. You can immediately see that she was in a bad mood. No worries, we all have our days, right? Lady 2, why did it take you so long to load my groceries? Me, I apologize, but I cannot get to everyone immediately. Lady 1 called first, so she got her groceries first. Plus, I'm working alone right now. Lady 2 sighs. All right, just load mine quick. I have to tuck my kids in soon. Reasonable enough. Let's say it took me between 7 to 10 minutes loading her since it was a huge load. She thanked me and drove off. Now I start loading Lady 3's order. She also had a huge order, so it took me a couple of minutes to get to her. As I get her order out of our department's door, I see her stomping towards me. She was angry. I know she was, but I really wasn't expecting it. I was tired. I've been working since 12 o'clock and I had to rush my lunch and not take any 15-minute breaks, at least until the end of my shift where everything slows down. I wasn't able to say anything back until she took a deep breath after a few minutes of her rant. Lady 3, insert really long rant about how long her wait is, how she has chores to do still, and that we should compensate her for her time. Me, Miss, I'm really sorry about the long wait. I had to load 2 customers ahead of you, and I'm currently alone. Lady 3, well, maybe you should schedule more people then. Me, I can't do that, miss. I'm not the department manager, and I don't decide who works when. Lady 3, I don't care. I'm expecting a full refund for this. You and your department are incapable of accommodating your customers' needs. A full refund of $600 worth of groceries with no pickup fees? For 15 minutes of her time? Me, I can't issue a full refund. I can get you a $10 voucher for the inconvenience, but a full refund is impossible. And as I said earlier, I was working alone. Lady 3, you should find another job if you can't load all of us under 5 minutes. And if you won't issue the full refund, I'll take this to the head manager, and I'm getting you fired. I just stood there, shocked. I wasn't able to respond at all. Lady 3, now put all my groceries into the back of your car. You've wasted too much of my time already. I hope they fire you. She went back into her car, and I just loaded her as fast as I could because I just don't want to deal with this anymore. After she drove off, I sent an email to our department manager regarding this, and they sent her a $25 voucher because customers are always right. And our next story. HOA president tried to tow my car. I got a flat tire just outside of the entrance to our neighborhood. I noticed it and pull over to the side of the road to check it out. It was already rimmed to pavement as there was a gash in the tire. I decided to pull off into the clubhouse parking lot instead of driving it an extra 1/3 of a mile to my house. It would need to be towed as my car doesn't have a spare. When I pulled in the HOA, president walked out with a few other people who I assume were from the board. It looked like they just finished some type of meeting. They said nothing to me. I left a note on the windshield stating a tow truck had been called and was on its way. I also left my phone number for the tow truck guy since I lived only a minute away instead of waiting with the car. About 30 minutes later, I get a call from a tow truck guy. I take my wife's car up to the clubhouse and meet him. After some brief confusion, we figured out we were there for different reasons. He was there to tow my car on behalf of the HOA and was waiting for a board rep to sign the tow paperwork. I told him what was going on, and he was cool about it. He called his boss, and then he just hung out. The board rep shows up and talks to the tow guy. She then says to me that they didn't know I lived there, and the rules state you cannot leave a car parked at the clubhouse unless you're using the pool. I explained that I had a flat tire, left a note, which her tow truck driver used to call me, so it was obviously still there when she saw it, and I have a barcode for the gate on my car, registered with the HOA using paperwork that included my license plate number, which should give some indication that I might live there. I, politely as I could muster at the moment, said that I would have appreciated a call first before they called a tow truck to have me towed. In response, she said that they didn't look at it that closely and that there was no way for them to tell whose it was. She also said it was a security risk and that they've had some parties at their clubhouse before, presumably by people who didn't live there. In a final response, I stated that I don't see how a car with a flat tire is a security risk and suggested that maybe the HOA should provide people, even if they didn't live in our neighborhood, with some grace in a situation where they're experiencing car trouble. Also, I don't know why a party at 3 p.m. in the afternoon would be a concern. There was no one else there. She then told me if my tow truck driver didn't show up within an hour, she was going to have it towed anyway. My God. P.S. 3 weeks after moving in, I got a letter telling me to fix the house number on our house or we'd be fined. One number was missing because it was loose and popped off. No welcome letter, hello from a neighbor, or friendly pie here. And our last story. How I reclaimed my rights to the old farm. Chapter 1. Ancestral Legacy. It all started long ago when my great-grandfather owned a small but cozy sheep breeding farm. Over time, the land passed to my father, who was not interested in farming and was involved in car sales instead. He sold all the sheep but kept the land as it had transitioned to my father, a man more fascinated by the world of four wheels than by agriculture. After selling the last animals to local farmers, he turned the plot into a family oasis, a place for our summer gatherings and family picnics. Eventually, the land was inherited by me. Chapter 2. An Unexpected Surprise. I rarely visited there, and since my grandfather had a large cellar, I decided to turn it into my shooting range so that I could have fun there with my friends without disturbing the neighbors. Once, returning after a long 4 months of absence, due to an unforeseen business project in another city, I discovered that my land had undergone changes. Where sheep once grazed, now stood a new parking lot. And not just any parking lot, but an illegally built parking lot by the local homeowners association under the leadership of the beloved Karen, who, as I later found out, was in charge of the housing community. All the while we owned this land, the suburb gradually expanded and moved closer to my farm until we became neighbors with this HOA. Chapter 3. Battling the Dragon. It was clear to me that I wouldn't reclaim my land without a fight. After consulting with a lawyer, we prepared all the documents and filed a lawsuit. Karen, learning of my actions, tried to manipulate public opinion and even organized several rallies against me, but I did not give up. Chapter 4. The Decisive Blow. Karen came to court with an army of residents and 3 lawyers. However, the truth was on my side. The court recognized my right to the land and ordered not only the demolition of the parking lot, but also compensation for the illegal use of my plot. I also decided to sell a part of the land next to the HOA to a local bikers club for a bar, so my neighbors from the HOA wouldn't get bored in the evenings. In our country, there's no zoning exclusively for residential needs, so there were no problems with the permit. The bar was there for less than 2 months. The wealthy snobs from the HOA bought the land for 4 times the price just to avoid the noise in the evenings. But I'm pleased with the result. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.